Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Cat's angry. Anyways, today's ink I have in sample form, and it is by Diamine, by the incredibly creative name of Orange. Obviously, I'm kidding. Now, this is a super intense shade of orange, and the thing is, there are actually a lot of brands with a very intense similar shade of orange, but we'll get to that. Yeah, two pens I used were these. Apparently I felt like being thematic. This is a Knox Galileo with a broad nib. I think this actually has Texas black bat in it though. And this is a Pilot Metropolitan with a Japanese fine nib, which I just want to show you the sheer difference. I mean, one's like writing with the corner of a razor blade. And honestly, I'm not terribly good at it. And actually, this test is from March, and it is now September. So it was when this was still a fairly new pen to me, and so I might have scratched through the paper a couple times. Because, like I said, razor blade. So, now let's look at some comparables, because this is rather fascinating. Now, here's Diamine's Orange. Bright, intense, vibrant. Ackerman's Orange Bovin. Very similar. I'd say maybe the Bovin is just a little bit darker. Toucan's Orange, which I'd say is actually very, very similar. Also very bold, also very bright. Here's Diamine's Pumpkin, which, yes, is a bit darker, and in fact, because it's a bit darker, it's a little easier to read. And lastly is Noodler's Habanero, or Habanero. But, yeah, this is my go-to orange. I love this orange. It shades beautifully. It's intense. This one is almost eye painfully bright. It's an experience, that's for sure. Now, hang on while I zoom in. Okay. This one on the right with the little D is the one that I let dry. This one on the left is the one that I did as you're supposed to do it. And you can see where that initial line of ink was put. There's sort of this faint, almost not quite salmon-y pink. And then near emptiness with little hints of that same pink. This intense orange through here. And no, that is not your screen freaking out. That is like highlighter yellow right up at the top. That is an intensely bright yellow. The one that I let dry, and it got to dry for maybe 8 to 10 minutes, you can see that the dot got a little bit darker. If anything, this pink through here is a little bit more dense. And then we get up to the orange and this bright yellow up the top once more. So, yeah. Alright. Chemical tests, for lack of a better word. Now, water got some of it moving, but not a ton of it. Bleach actually only affected some of it. The rest turned this intense pink color. Ammonia pen flesh got some of it moving, and hydrogen peroxide actually really got it moving. The thing is, hydrogen peroxide and ammonia also started to eat through the paper. So, now, paper test, top, down, and density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Yeah. This is an intense shade of orange. There is not a lot of shading. In fact, there is almost none. Now, it is slightly wet flowing, as you can probably tell from that smear with the broad. Speaking of the broad, took 25 seconds to dry on here, and that Japanese fine still took 8. I really hope the sheer intensity of this color comes through. And what you think you might be seeing here, that shading, it's not. I just don't know if I'm going to get it on camera. It's like a fine powdery gold sheen. It's odd. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. But yes, generally quite well behaved. It's wet flowing, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo. There is sheen. There is sheen, but I just don't know if I'm going to get it on camera because I've never seen anything quite like it. It's just sort of this dusty gold color. It's rather fascinating. Now, yes, there is not a lot of water resistance. A little bit remained, and yes, it's kind of in that weird salmony color. But, yeah, it dyed the page a little bit. That would not be the easiest thing in the world to recover. It's not super easy to read. Next up is Fabriano Eco Quad. It's an 85 gram per square meter paper. I love this stuff. It tends to be able to handle inks that other papers can kind of buckle under. The more I use it, the more I love it. Highly recommend it. Now, that Japanese fine on here took 13 seconds to dry. That broad took 22. And I just want to show you the sheer intensity of this ink. Because even in those smears, look at how dense the color is. This ink is well saturated without feeling thick, if that makes any sense. If you've ever had like a super saturated ink, something that comes to mind is like a Private Reserve ebony something. So whether it's ebony blue or green or brown, those inks they're so saturated that they can start to feel almost thick. But yeah, anyways, 22 seconds, 13 seconds. Again, we don't really have a whole lot of shading, and a lot of what you're seeing that you think is shading in that scrubby is actually more of that dusty gold. And I know I'm not going to get it on camera, and it's infuriating, but trust me, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it except this, and it's rather fascinating. But yeah, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen. All good in that regard. And again, we have a not awesome water test. In fact, the camera is decreasing the contrast for once. In real life, this is a very dyed page. It is significantly salmon pink. But yeah. Anyway, so it dyed the page. A lot of it let go. Not a lot of it remained. And actually, it's not even that readable in real life because there's a lot more pink in the background. And so the writing is kind of fading into the background more. Well, that's confusing. Now, next up is Rhodia. 80 grams per square meter. I feel like everyone knows this stuff. It's great. It's great. And again, there's no shading at all. And now usually I tend to come down on inks that are undersaturated, and one of the ways that I show that an ink is undersaturated is when I use a quadrilateral paper like this. I say that, oh look, you can see the lines underneath. Well, you can definitely see the lines underneath here. The thing is, I don't know how to describe it, but this ink does not in any way feel undersaturated. It's almost just that it's more translucent. I don't know how to describe it. But yeah, and besides, one of the things that bothers me about an ink that's undersaturated and you can see the lines, a lot of times it's very faint. This is not faint. This is a very bold color. It is hard to miss. And once again, we don't really have much shading, and we still have sort of that dusty gold kind of appearance. And no, that is not leftover glitter from the Shimmertastics, because this was months before I had to deal with those Shimmertastic inks. Now, that Japanese fine took 9 seconds to dry. The Broad Galileo took 21. And again, I just want you to see just how wet this ink is, because see how absolutely just super fine those lines are, and yet that much ink can be smeared? I tell you, the ink's really coming out. It's definitely a 6, maybe a 6.5, but definitely a 6. Now, again, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen, or at least, I don't know if that's the traditional kind of sheen because it's that dusty gold. Water test is more of the same. It dyed the page, not much remains. It would not be easy to recover even slightly, but I don't know. Diamine isn't super well known for its water-resistant inks, and when it is, it's very vocal about it. This was definitely not advertised to be water-resistant. Now, next up is Tomoe River paper. It's known for drawing out shading and sheen and dry times and echo, and we pretty much got all of that, but I really hope this shows up this time. Can you see that? That's sort of like dusty gold, shimmery. I mean, it's not shimmery because it's not glitter. It's a weird kind of sheen. I don't understand, but it's kind of beautiful. But yeah, that dry time's getting drawn out. We did, but yeah, Japanese fine took 15 seconds. The broad took 27. So honestly, it could be a lot worse, especially some of the things we've been seeing lately. Yeah, an intense color. And that was something I noted here. Even on this cream colored paper, this ink is still incredibly intense and vibrant. It is hard to miss. If you need something that's extremely eye-catching, this would definitely do the job. Now, because it's Tomoe River, it won't bleed, it won't feather, it won't spread. It just doesn't do that. However, there might be a bit of echo, but mostly I'd say that's just because that broad is putting down a lot of ink. And this is, I mean, it's an intense color. It's an intense color, so I'm not even necessarily sure it has anything to do with the ink having to be dark. It's just very bold. And this is 52 gram per square meter paper. This is almost half as thick as Clairefontaine. It is extremely thin. So honestly, it's so susceptible to echo anyway. I can hardly fault it. But yeah, again, this paper loves to letting slide away when you add more water, and it really, really did. And once again, the camera's doing that thing where it's not showing how much the page is dyed, and it's exaggerating how easy it is to read. In real life, this is almost impossible to read. It's the color of like an orange highlighter in real life. And yeah, that's confusing and misleading. It is not that easy to read. Oh well. Now for the next 3 tests, I just used the Japanese fine except to write the name. And as I was reading these over before I started recording, I realized I don't necessarily agree with some of my more emphatic language that I used here. I think I came down a little hard on it. I said, like, there's a lot of shading, or there's a lot of feathering, there's a lot of... There really isn't. So, yeah, I'm just going to, for one that generally reads these as I show them, I do not necessarily agree with all the views expressed herein. Not anymore. And, yeah, so let's get into it. This is the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. It might very well be the world's worst paper, period. Trust me, I know paper. This stuff is awful. I can pretty much guarantee you have something better than this. But even here, look at how bold and intense and bright this color is. It is shockingly bold. Now, we do get some spread. If we look at the line with here on Tomoe River, and we look at the line with here, we do get an increase, so there is some spread. And where we might not have had much or nearly any shading on here on like Tomoe River, here we just have none. We have none. It's just one color, but it's still a very intense, bold, bright color. Took 5 seconds to dry. We do have some wooliness. We do have some feathering, but it's not as bad as I sort of make it out to be down here. But I also say there's like a bunch of bleed. There really isn't. There is some, and like that's where I was writing very small, so it's a lot of ink in a small space. And there is like maybe some echo, some show through, but again, this is a wet flowing ink, and it's absorbent paper, so it's trying to draw that ink in, so it's definitely sinking into the ink. It's not necessarily coming out the back, but if you're super sensitive to it like I am, it might bother you, and you might expect more from a Japanese fine, and I don't think that's asking too much, but I'm saying it could be a heck of a lot worse. We've definitely seen worse since I did this in March. So yeah, water test, again, as I said, more absorbent papers tend to draw the ink in, not want to let go. And that's kind of what we see here. The yellow, much like we saw in the chromatography, the yellow is trying to release, and what's really at the base is a more pinky orange. But actually, I'm impressed with how much this stayed together. A lot of times, you can just freak out and start feathering and exploding, becoming completely illegible. Honestly, I was expecting that. We did not get that. That is very legible. That is recoverable if you had to. It might not necessarily be the most fun job in the world, but I think you could do it. Next up is Mead Notebook Paper. It's extremely common for school children here in the United States. This is the kind you find in a spiral notebook, not the kind you'd find in a composition notebook. And lately, pretty much starting around now, this is one of the first times that I noted it, this is where I noticed that this paper was really starting to feather a lot. And on here I say it's feathering a lot. Compared to what ended up happening, this is almost a cakewalk. Because, like, we do have the odd feather. I'm not going to deny that. There is some feathering. But if you've seen some of my other tests with this paper, this is really not anything to shake your fist at. We've seen much, much worse. Now again, we have no shading, but the color is extremely intense. It's very bright. It is certainly eye-catching. Took 1.5 seconds to dry. There's nowhere near the spread that we see with the 20-pound, but it is still a bit more than none at all. But it's definitely closer to none at all, if that makes any sense. Probably not, because it's me talking. But yeah, we have no bleed. We have no bleed. None at all. We have some spots of near bleed, but I feel like I can point out where that's me sort of scratching through the paper. So like that downstroke on part of that A, that A. For some reason, A's were just killing me that day. Now, this is super thin paper. This is even thinner than 20 pound. So, again, this is a very vibrant ink on very thin paper. You might get a hint of it from the back. That's just something that happens. However, it's really not too bad. I consider myself extremely picky. If pressed, I could probably write on both sides. But again, this is a Japanese fine, so... Now, this paper can really freak out when you add water, and it kind of did and kind of didn't. You can see that that yellow is really trying to escape. It's funny because its writing looks like it's on fire, but yeah, you can see the stuff at the center is actually fairly calm. It's fairly there. It's trying not to release. A little bit of it is, but honestly, if you've seen some of these other tests, you know just how much it can freak out when it wants to. Now, lastly is Moleskine notebook paper, which I hate because they make you pay a lot of money for it and it's very cheaply made. Now, compared to the stuff I've been using more recently, this stuff is much more well behaved, but it is still not perfect because I just want to show you some of these feathers. Yeah, there are some feathers that are unequal to any other feathers in existence. There's just... Oh god, yeah, so, yeah, it took 7 seconds to dry. It's still very bold. It's extremely bright color. We get feathering. I say there's a ton of near bleed for a Japanese fine, but actually we don't really get much. We have some stuff where we're starting to like get a hint of it from the other side, but it's really like those two instances. It's like here and here. And that's about it. And maybe up here, but I mean it's nowhere near coming out the back, so I don't know what I was talking about. I retract said statement. However, we do see something here that we didn't really see on the other papers. First of all, it didn't dye the page. Secondly, the yellow isn't letting go. It's just like everything is trying to let go, and so it doubled down on feathering and like half exploded, and I don't know why. But there you go. Moleskine. So there you go. There is Diamine Orange. It is an extremely bright, vibrant orange. It's actually relatively well behaved on cheap papers, although that could have something to do with the Japanese fine. It is a little wet flowing. It has no shading, but it is an intense, intense color of ink. It has this very interesting, like a dusty gold semi-sheen thing going on that I don't think I've seen anywhere else. Yeah, it's really something else. For your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.